you're famous. And I feel I'm laughing. I'm like, yeah, you know. But then he asked me a question. He's like, but what are you famous for?
We don't, because when you have that, you don't see that as, oh, it's something that you should be happy for.
No.
You want them Nikes.
Exactly.
Or you want that jacket.
Exactly. So it's always a choice, because even if you think about it, in that council estate that you grew up in, and you're saying that all you saw was drug dealers and gang members, in that same council estate there's probably a medical student. So there is life after the roads. Do you know what I mean? There is life. You don't really.
All right.
Let's get it.
We're back again. Welcome back to XCONVERSATIONS. You know, I'm your boy Zach, aka AK. To my right, we have your boy Mystic Gasconi.
Come on.
How's it going, bro? You all right, yeah?
Stay on, man. Stay on.
Good. Well, I'm so happy and privileged and honored to bring on our next special guest. What can I say about this gentleman? Founder, CEO of 2020CHANGE.
Wow.
Yeah. A philanthropist.
Wow.
He actually goes into prisons, speaks to the people in there, and comes away feeling inspired.
Wow.
Yeah. Mr. Duro Oye.
Thank
Give
you
him
very
a
much.
round of applause, man.
Thank you, guys.
Come on.
Thank you.
I forgot to add. Oh my days! I'm so done. I forgot to add filmmaker and documentary maker. You know, how did I miss that? How did I miss that one?
Look at that.
No, thank you for having me, guys.
I appreciate it. Appreciate you taking your time out to come and
Not a problem at all.
chop it up with us. You know,
I appreciate it.
'Cause I know your time's busy. I know you're a busy man. Like,
But you know what? People say that, but I always say to people, like, my response is people make time for the things that they care about, for the things and the people that they care about.
True.
So no one's ever too busy.
True.
Do you know what I mean? So it's just about finding the time that we can make it work.
Exactly.
Do you know what I mean? And if you genuinely care about something, if you genuinely care about someone, you make time for them.
No, for real, man. We appreciate you coming on, obviously.
No problem.
It's an honour, honestly.
It actually is.
Thank you.
Actually is. You know, and you know what smacks it? We scheduled this like about a month ago, right?
Yeah.
So that's how I know his time is. You know. But you're doing good things. So
Thank you.
you know,
Thank
seeing that I missed out, filmmaker, documentary maker. You made. Can you tell us a bit about your documentary that got the acclaim that it did?
The first one, so the original documentary that I made was a documentary called 24/7/365 Change, and that was back in 2012 into 2011 into 2012. Yeah, it was just basically following the lives of 6 ex-gang members from Peckham and Brixton, documenting their life, documenting their change, and I wanted to use it as an opportunity for other young people to be inspired by their journey, because they were quite well known for a lot of the negative things that they did.
Okay.
But then once they started to turn their lives around, no one really paid too much of attention. And I was more interested in that side of the story.
Yeah.
And if they could be open and honest about their journey and their experience, young people that looked up to them once upon a time will be able to see that and say, do you know what, I can respect that. If he can do it, I can too.
Yeah.
The plan for the documentary was to make it, put it out there, people watch it, be inspired, and I was going to give it to youth organisations to turn it into workshops, take it into schools, prisons. We had the premiere for it at Odeon, Leicester Square. We had over about 850 people there. Everyone loved it. We got standing ovation, people laughing, crying. It was great. And then we had the Q&A, and people were like, okay, so what's next? Laid out the blueprint, said this is what I want to do. Like, we invited all of the major youth organisations at the time as well. And they all said, yeah, let's get behind it, let's support it. A week after the premiere, 2 weeks after the premiere, 3 weeks after the premiere, no one's responding back to my call.
Wow.
No one's picking up emails, and I was just like, what happens now? Like, I had put all that I had financially into the documentary, raised money for the documentary, and yeah, nothing came of it. So I decided to do something on my own, and that's where the idea for 2020 Change kind of stemmed from.
Wow. So having them that setback in like no responses and no one, you know, following up on their excitement and their enthusiasm about it.
Mm-hmm.
So from that setback, you said, you know what, I'm going to do something about it. And that's where 2020 Change came from.
Yeah, that's what gave birth to 2020
Wow.
Change.
In that moment there, yeah? So all that hard work, how long was you filming for?
18 months.
Wow.
Oh,
Wow.
that's crazy stuff.
Yeah.
So how did you get back up? Like obviously, how you've explained obviously that you put the showcase on, people were really up for it, really enjoying it, and when you obviously reached that, nobody got back to you. How did that make you feel, and how did you prepare yourself mentally to bounce back from that?
You know what? I saw it as, okay, I'm gonna have to dig deeper and come back stronger. I didn't necessarily see it as a knockback, even though looking at it on the surface level, that's what it was, right? I just felt like, okay, this is the path that has been crafted for me to. It's given me the opportunity to create something out of nothing, really. And there were a number of like promises that I made to the guys that were in the documentary that like, if you guys get on board with this and are open and honest about your experience, it's going to change lives. And I just didn't want to go back on that and just have the film there.
Man of his word.
No
Man of
one's
his
watched
word.
it. I just felt like something needed to happen. And I also felt like the responsibility was kind of on my shoulders to do so much more to inspire young people in the right way. I felt partly responsible for leading a huge amount of young people astray, leading them down the wrong path based on a previous life that I lived, them looking up to me thinking, I want to be on what he's on. Me knowing full well that this path isn't rosy, but obviously it's the picture that you paint and what they pick up on. And I felt like it was kind of like redemption for me to do something to turn around,
like an
lives.
atonement.
Do you know what I mean? Yeah, that's how I felt. And I had like a particular number in mind. There was actually one day that I sat down and I thought, how many youngers did I actually lead astray? And what's that official figure? And at what point am I going to get or match that figure in terms of the lives that we turn around from 2020 Change? So these are like, you know, private conversations that you have with yourself when you lay down in your bed and you're thinking, what's the purpose for my life? Why am I here on this earth? What am I meant to be doing? So these are private conversations that I have with myself. And even while I was, you know, knee deep in what I was in before, you have a conscience, right?
Of course
and you know, you start thinking about certain things and you're just thinking, yeah, one day I'm going to flip it around. One day I'm going to flip it around. But most people don't. They don't get the opportunity to. Thankfully, I had that opportunity to, and I was willing to do everything within my power to make it happen.
I respect that totally. That's you are literally, you're saying, okay, look, when I was on what I was doing, I led this many. So you was that conscious that you kept that figure, or you thought
No. It was after. It was after. There's no way that I was doing it during. I'm like, yeah, cool. It wasn't like for like. Do you know what I mean? It was after.
Where did you? What area did you grow up in?
Woolwich, Thamesmead, South East London. So if you know anything about those areas, you know it's the fraud capital of London. So just gives you an indication of what I was involved in.
Okay. Now, just touching on obviously what you've mentioned as well, I just want to touch on that, take it back a little bit to see that. So obviously when you first made the decision to actually, you know, create what you have created, how did you like navigate, or how did you choose what kind of people to network with to kind of get you into the position or prepare you to start like building from the ground up? If you could just kind of take us through that.
I started from looking at my life. So obviously that at the point where I decided to set up the organisation, I was a lot further along in my change. So my change came in 2006.
Okay.
Do you get it? I didn't even step into this scene of trying to help people until I was completely transformed from the inside out myself. So whereas a lot of people make that mistake of, you know, you come off road yesterday and automatically you're trying to change people, like there's a lot of work that needs to be done
within yourself,
yourself first, right? So I don't even know how many years that is. That's what 2006 to 2012. So that's 6 years. 6 years, 7 years, 8 years. So 6 years for me to get into the filmmaking stuff. 8 years for me to penetrate into the charity sector.
Mm.
5 years from 2013 laying the foundation, the groundwork of the organisation. 5 years running the organisation on a, shoestring budget, one-man band, and building everything up. But in terms of like scoping out the program and developing the program, what I did is I looked back at the things that changed my way of thinking, like what mentors and coaches that I had around me at that time showed me, how they taught me how to network and move around in different spaces. There was corporate and social etiquette, how to conduct yourself in a professional environment. All of these things that young kids don't learn in school. And ideally, if you grow up in a solid household, you're supposed to pick these things up at home, right? But most kids don't. So there's a deficit there. Where are they getting that from? And the majority of them then get it from the streets or from the wrong things, and it's not in the right way. So I had to reprogram my mind. So I had to take myself back to when I came off. What are the things that I learned? How did I implement them? How can I then take that and turn it into a program that could help and inspire young people? So the first 5 years was a lot of trial and error. The program started as we're a 12-week program now, but then it started as a full-on intense 12-week program, 2 sessions a week, 3-hour-long workshops, because there was just so much content to pack in there. But obviously, if you're working with young people, young adults, attention span isn't all the way there, so you've got to factor that in. So as with each cohort, I would change and tailor the program to suit the needs of the cohort until we were able to come up with a working formula to say, boom, this is the program, this is what we're going to go with, this is what works, it's tried, it's tested, now that's sealed, and then we just keep replicating that. And then when it comes to networking, like you said, the question was, how did I network with the right people? We were chatting a bit earlier, but for me it was Eventbrite. Eventbrite was my number one friend. So I'll type into Eventbrite and I'll search for events that are in line with what I was doing. So at the time it was gang culture, working with ex-offenders, the transformative work in terms of how ex-offenders could identify what their transferable skills from what they're doing and use it to enter into the corporate space, use it to enter into the business space, what kind of coaching, what kind of mentoring that they would need. Looking for people that were willing to give that time to young people that had maybe like a checkered past and stuff, and then going to those kind of events, talking about what it is that I do within my organization, so people think, okay, this is a different approach, this is someone that's coming at it from a whole different standpoint, and he's getting some success. How can we get behind him? And I was saying that if you're introduced to someone, if you network with someone, depending on how you manage that relationship will determine whether that individual introduces you to someone else within their network.
Of course.
And I've managed to be able to do that over the years. So my black book right now
it's
very it's very healthy. Do you know what I mean?
Right.
But it's years of investing in people. So not only do I invest in young people, I also invest in older people as well. And for me, it's not about how a person looks. It's not about how they dress or how much money they have in their bank account, but it's more so how much knowledge they've built up over the years and how I can tap into that knowledge. And people from all walks of life, how can I learn something different from someone else? So I'm always intrigued when I meet people that don't look like me, that don't sound like me. I want to get to know you and your background and your experience. So people might meet me and be like, oh my gosh, like your life is so interesting, your background's so interesting. But on the flip side, I'm looking at it thinking your life is so interesting. What, you grew up in a proper household and you had dinner at a certain time? I want to know more about that. Do you know what I mean? So it's about flipping it. And when you have those kind of rich conversations, it's genuine. It's not a conversation of, oh, I want to network with you. What can I get from you? It's building relationships and other things will come off of the back of that. And it's one of the things that we teach the young people at 2020 Change as well. So with our mentor matcher program, I always tell people your mentors don't have to look like you. Your mentors don't have to have the same experience as you, because there's a lot that you can learn from someone that comes from a different world to you, and vice versa as well. There's a lot that they can learn from you, and there's a lot of value in that, because as a young person you feel like, wow, this person's actually taking me in, and I feel like I'm teaching them something. So there's an exchange there. Do you know what I mean?
And that exchange is key to like navigating through like different stages of your life.
100%.
Because like, just to take you back, you said your change initiated in like around 2006.
Yeah.
What actually kicked that change off? What was the
I'll be all the way real with you. It was my brother.
older, younger?
Older.
Okay.
So I'm the youngest of 6.
Wow.
Yeah, 7 now, 6. My brother's passed on now.
May he rest in peace.
Thank you. So he's a Christian, and growing up, we all grew up in a Christian home and stuff. After a while, you get to an age where your parents can't really force you to go to church anymore. You got to make your own
African
decision.
household.
Do you know what I
how it
mean?
goes. Yeah, yeah.
So it was one of those things. So my brother was on it. So when I went to uni, he used to send me like these monthly daily devotionals.
Okay.
So even though I was doing what I was doing, I still had that Christian element to it. Like, you know, I was silly. I'd do silly things like go and pray for a job to drop, and then the job was
You're not alone there, you know. You're not alone there.
The last time.
The man's at the bank. The man's in the car at the bank, like, please let it drop. Let
Do you know what I mean?
I know them
Obviously,
ones. I
when
know
the
them
job drops, you drop a little something on the altar, you know,
man.
stupid
I hear
things,
that.
you
No,
know.
I hear you.
So
But it goes on though. It's real. It's real talk.
Listen,
But yeah.
all the way real. So I read an article,
Mm.
a Christian article, and the article gave an illustration of it said that you can't do anything positive with ill-gotten gains, and that struck me hard, right? And ever since then, like, my jobs weren't dropping like they were before. So I was like, you know, back then, like, jobs, it's very rare for you to get 10 out of 10. But my success rate was high. I'd get like 8, 9 out of 10. So it started dropping from 8, 9s to 6s, 5s, 4s. And then I'd always look for ways to kind of like clean my money and put it into something. But it just never worked out. And it wasn't until reading that article that it made sense. I was like, okay, I see what's happening here.
Yeah.
So that was a seed that was planted in me. So that was one. And then the other part of it was, even though I was somewhat successful in doing what I was doing, a lot of what I came up with just thinking things through and thinking, oh, okay, cool, I could do that. I can make that work. So it was all in my mind, right? And I used to think to myself, like, you got a sick mind. Like, you could just think of these things. But then there was this other voice saying, but anyone can do what you're doing. Like, how do you know it's not just luck? Do you know what I mean? So there was that inner voice that I was battling with. And I was just thinking, nah, like, I've got this. Like, my mind's sick. I was book smart and street smart. Do you know what I mean?
I
So
can relate.
I was thinking, nah, there's got to be more to this mind of mine. And have I even really applied myself? Have I really even done anything to say that this is the only route for me? No, I hadn't. So there was those battles going on as well. And then another time, I came back to the ends and I was kind of like known in my area. So I was walking down the road with my little nephew. He was about 11, 12 at this point. Obviously, I'm walking down the road, everyone's calling my name, how you doing? Waving, feeling like the man, you know, my nephew's with me, and he's like, all right, like, you're famous, and, you know, I feel I'm loving it. I'm like, yeah, you know. But then he asked me a question, he's like, but what are you famous for? That hit me. He's getting to that age now where he's starting to know
What's going on?
He can start, like, if he was to ask someone else, easily they could tell him. And then that's like the bubble popped. And obviously for me, I was inspired by my older uncle. And I just didn't want that for him. So it was all of those things going on in my mind. And I was thinking to myself, I never really applied myself, you know. I can't, my reason is not like the other guy that says that this is all I know. This is all that I've done. Like, I haven't really pushed myself in that way. So I've said to myself, you know what? When I finish uni, I'm gonna go back to London, get rid of everything, start from scratch, move back into my mum's, and go to church, bro. I walked into the church and I never walked back out. I remember the date, August 16th, 2006. It was a Wednesday. I walked in, said, look, here I am. Take me, use me. Buried myself in the church. I started volunteering in the church. The church was quite big. They had a TV station and a TV studio connected to it. I studied graphics and advertising, so I was good with graphics, design, art and stuff. They taught me everything that they know about filming, editing, motion graphics. They employed me after like 3 months. I worked my way up there to like assistant manager of the TV station, and I even went to film school while I was there in the evenings and weekends. That's where my passion for film came from. And I started thinking to myself, so I produced a number of TV shows for them, and I was looking for individuals that had stories like mine, like transformational stories, people that were deep in it and turned their lives around. But the issue was, most people that did what I did, once they turn their lives around, they forget.
Yeah.
They bury it.
Yeah.
They don't want to talk about that life anymore because I'm a new man now. Do you know what I mean? Like, I don't want to take my image anymore. But I felt like, no, but young people need to hear this. So I was looking for more and more, and that's how I got in contact with the 6 guys that made the documentary.
So you see, like, whilst you're making that change and you immerse yourself in the church, what were your friends that you used to do what you was doing with?
Cut them off, bro.
You cut them off completely?
Completely.
Wow.
I had to for 2.5 years. So I speak to people today that try and do 1 foot in, 1 foot out, but the issue is they'll drag you back. They'll drag you back. You got to do what works for you in that moment in time. You can't help everyone, and you're not even strong enough to pull them through just yet. So you need to go and equip yourself and strengthen yourself, put your feet firmly on the ground, and then you could bring others in. Do you know what I mean? So it took time. So we were 40 strong? I say out of the 40, 45 strong. Out of the 40, 45, maybe about 5 of them are still involved in that lifestyle.
Wow.
That's the beauty of a transformational change and that ripple effect. So you have to stay true. So they laughed at me. A lot of them laughed at me for that. Your money's going to run out. You're going to do this and you're going to come back. But I was adamant that I was going to be a success that could turn it around, and they could look at me and be like, rah, he made it. So it took a number of years, but even it started with the older ones. They were like, you know what, Drew, I respect you for what you did. You know, like, you stuck to your guns and you're doing something. You're making something of yourself. And it took a big man to be able to kind of recognize that and kind of give you a nod to say, like, I wish I could do what you're doing, kind of thing. But eventually they got there. Some people took years after. Like, I've got friends now that are now doing positive things, moved back to Nigeria. A few of them are in politics, doing their own thing. Like, everyone's good. Do you know what I mean? But like I said, I still got the handful that's still involved in that. But the time will come.
But it takes one to make that step, though.
For real.
It takes one to be strong and say, you know what, I'm done with this. I'm going to walk away and change. And then you eventually came back and started to help your people. So that I respect totally.
Thank you.
You see, like, so when you was, so sorry to just move, so we're going back and forward. This is a moving picture, yeah? This is a moving picture, so, you know, so then from that, you got introduced to the 6 that were you were filming. And so what was it like navigating that space for the 18 months with them?
It was crazy because I saw myself in them, but just not as wild and not as wild and not as reckless.
Yeah.
And they kind of helped me realize that I had a privilege. So you know, when you're involved in that lifestyle, you think you're all the same, but you're not. See, whereas with me, I grew up in an African household. Like, education was key. Some of them, and also people that they introduced me to as well, I just got to see it from a different lens. Like, when you're in it, you're just seeing it from yourself. You're thinking, rah, times are hard. I can't buy this. My parent can't afford that for me. But there's other things that they've been able to give you. They've been able to shower you with love, you know, shelter, food, and all that kind of thing. The basic necessities were there.
But we don't, because when you have that, you don't see that as, oh, it's something that you should be happy for.
No.
You want them Nikes.
Exactly.
Or you want that jacket.
Exactly. So it took me engaging with them and understanding how they came up to make me realize, wow, I actually had it good. And I didn't recognize that. And then for me, getting into the life that I did, it was a choice. And that's another thing that I always like to highlight with young people, that, like, there is always a choice. There's always a choice that's made. Even for those that say, you know,
this is all I know, or this is all that was there for me.
It's always a choice. Always a choice. Because even if you think about it, in that council estate that you grew up in, and you're saying that all you saw was drug dealers and gang members, in that same council estate, there's probably a medical student. Do you know what I mean? That's doing 5 years graft, but you don't see them as a role model.
Yeah.
Why is that?
Why is that true?
Do you know what I mean? So it's a tainted glass that we're using to look for role models. So it's about who do you pinpoint as a role model? Who do you identify to be a role model? So for me to recognize that, I thought, okay, even though I had a past that I did, I could be someone that young people could look up to, because it was a case where those 6 kind of saw me as, right, he's further along on his journey. So they were still like first year, second year
Yeah.
in terms of their transitioning. But I was here I was 6 years down, and things are now coming up for me. So I was able to turn it around. So I wasn't like those ones that came off and just fell off.
Yeah.
So I still look fresh. I still have money because I was working, right?
Yeah.
So I still had that stable income. I had my house and all of that kind of stuff. So I look clean. I
Yeah.
didn't look like he came off and he's just bummy now.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? So people now look and think, okay, so there is life after the
that.
roads. Do you know what I mean? There is life. You don't really get, like I said, once people turn their life around, they forget.
Yeah.
Or they want you to forget, and they bury that side of them. They reinvent themselves, and they don't think about how their story could spark a change
And affect
in
someone
else's.
else's life.
So for me, I felt it, because obviously my change came through the church. It was always about giving.
Yeah.
And those people that took me in didn't have to.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? There was no payback for that. And I guess the payback is the success of the work that I'm doing now, right? So I felt like, how could I replicate this? Because most of the people that I engage with ain't just going to walk into the church like I did. So how can I take the knowledge and the insight that I receive from here to the masses, essentially? And, you know, since then, we not only work with young people that have been involved in criminality or street enterprise, we work with young people across the board now. It's just grown into something that I can't even say that I don't recognize it anymore. It's like having a child, you know, like the child is born and you're just nurturing and you're caring your feet, and like now it's like a toddler and it's now doing its own thing. You're just like, oh, come, like, do you know what I mean? And it's just going to grow and it's going to become its own little entity that's going to give birth to even more things.
And just
that's what it
as
is.
you're saying that, the studio we're in now, this very studio we're in now, I believe it was set up by a participant from a previous
one of our
cohort.
alumni members,
So, what, for real?
yeah.
What's one of your members is the person that set up the
Yeah.
studio?
Yeah.
Look at that.
Look at
I
that.
know.
That's mad, you
that
know.
is testimony
Yeah, man.
to your work.
Yeah.
That's cold.
That's
Yeah.
amazing.
Yeah.
Like, we just got to take that in a second. We got to take that in, literally take that in a second.
Yeah.
A member of your alumni, a member from a previous cohort. What year was he on? Do you remember?
2016, I believe.
Wow.
Yeah.
And look at that, we're in his studio.
One of his.
One of his, sorry. One
Oh,
of
so
his
he's got more
studio.
than one. Come on, man.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah, no, I'm super proud of him.
I'm proud for you. Like this is why I'm so happy to have people like you on the show, because I feel like you said, people that leave and make that change, not a lot of them are ready to come and say, look, this is what I'm doing, you can do it too.